Holiverse is a metaverse, which will be more than just a game. The era when the metaverse will become a part of everyone's life is not far off. Today, I'm having an interesting conversation with my coach for speech and language and what
Public
else?
speaking.
Public speaking, indeed. Because, Varvara, I want you to immerse yourself more deeply in our projects, in our businesses. It will be really helpful for us in working through all the ideas that we've discussed. Please, what questions do you have? What have you yet to understand, to learn about us? Let's talk about it.
Lado, thank you. I look forward to our conversation and I believe it will be very interesting. Understanding what you do is not that simple because there are many projects. They are global, interesting, and impact various aspects of life. So I'm ready to ask questions and I have many. And we'll begin our conversation. I'd like to start the conversation with a Holiverse company. My first question is fairly basic. In general, can you tell me what this company does? Am I correct in understanding that it's not even a company, but rather a holding, and there are various divisions within it?
Yes, Holiverse is a metaverse, and we are bold enough to believe we'll be the first to create a genuine metaverse, which will be more than just a game, and will have very important components that Metaverse is still in its early stages of development. In my view, however, technology is advancing so rapidly that the era when the metaverse will become part of everyone's life is not far off. Just as smartphones, and the internet become part of everyone's life. Yet, a generation ago, no one imagined it this way. People used to think it was just as people view the metaverse today, something specific that some find interesting, others don't. However, in reality, the future lies with it. It provides us with greater possibilities in our lives. The special feature of the Holiverse metaverse is that it takes a holistic approach that encompasses all aspects, including our approach to health. We have the Holivita direction specifically related to health, which, interestingly, is very important for all the metaverse tasks that we establish and that are logically appropriate for a metaverse.
So one direction will be Holivita. This is some kind of medical project, right?
Yes, it's related to genetics. The reason I don't use the simple terms medicine or treatment, because we aim to go beyond conventional medicine, which merely treats. Because generally, this approach, I'm absolutely certain it will soon become obsolete, fortunately for humanity. Because it has been a major problem that medicine, of course, has not been interested in keeping us truly healthy. Because we would arrive with diseases and they would treat the diseases instead of preventing them from affecting us in the first place. Of course, someone might be having the task of curing a disease, and someone might have the task of perfecting their body. And there's no limit to our perfection. And Holivita is what will help us. The main task that Holiverse generally sets is to reveal the true nature of human beings.
Do I understand correctly that if we're talking about this company, it's not just treatment? That is, if a person has any kind of disease, we treat it. This is something else. Is this preventive medicine then? One that utilizes the capabilities of the metaverse and artificial intelligence. Do I understand this correctly?
Of course. This is exactly what I refer to as revealing the true nature of human beings. We have much greater potential within us. Yet, due to our past mistakes, which seem normal to everyone lived this way, everyone always did this, All of this is in our nutrition, in our lifestyle, in every aspect of our lives, let's put it this way. By making all these adjustments, we can achieve a drastically improved quality of life, where youth extends far longer, and life expectancy can increase to such an extent that I'm hesitant to mention specific figures, as people simply won't
But
believe them.
inspire us, so we have hope.
No. Well, quite a few scientists are already saying that for modern middle-aged people, living to 100 will become commonplace. That's merely a minimum goal, of course. A good starting point, let's say. But in reality, it's crucial for us not only to live long, but also live with quality.
Absolutely.
Maintaining youth, as aging itself is not as natural as we've been led to think, read, and understand. In fact, aging is, in one way or another, the process of certain diseases. Our body is an entire universe, housing countless different lives, different processes, and worlds within us. Much is disrupted by the improper use of our body. As we have incorrectly established behavioral algorithms.
But all of this can be corrected. This is very interesting, because lately I've had the feeling that we're moving in a completely different direction. This might be an issue with Western medicine. Eastern medicine views humans differently. But lately I've had the feeling that there's a doctor who treats the right arm, another who treats the left arm, and they aren't connected at all. The situations become almost absurd. There is such a great atomization of knowledge among doctors that they don't connect anything in the body. Everything's treated separately. And I've observed myself that this approach doesn't lead to anything good, and they generally can't treat fully, because they only work with certain symptoms. In fact, this is largely symptomatic treatment, which doesn't address the main problem at all. And they can't even identify it.
But that task isn't even set.
Yes.
Actually, as I've already mentioned, the key problem is forming the right motivation. The proper motivation for medicine is to ensure that they are genuinely interested in keeping us as healthy as possible.
Currently, there's no such interest.
Well, what interest does a doctor have? If you're cured, you don't visit the doctor. Why would you need him?
You sound like my grandfather, who was a doctor. He was a dentist. He used to say, "Far I remember, the most dishonest people are doctors." This was said by my grandfather, who worked until he was 80 and was a brilliant doctor. He meant precisely this. They want you to come so they can treat you. I was a child when I first heard this phrase, and I still remember it. However, today's companies, pharmaceutical companies, medical companies, conglomerates represent some of the wealthiest entities in the world. They earn, the World Health Organization, all of that. They earn cosmic money. I don't know, billions, trillions. It's a massive industry. How can anyone challenge something so powerful? Obviously, they will all strongly resist your approach and your desire to solve this problem globally, not just at some local level.
Well, resistance to anything new has always existed. Exists now, will always exist. That's normal. However, what you're talking about, I caught onto it in childhood. Listen to the doctor and do the opposite. This is not an absolute truth, of course, but it has somehow helped me since childhood, as it seems to work that way in most cases. I've never gone to doctors at all, and I've never used any medications for almost 40 years
Was this
now.
approach used in your family? Did your mother treat herself, or...?
My parents were inclined to this, to something more natural. Well, they were searching. That was the case, yes. However, avoiding medicine entirely was not the case. But I decided for myself that this completely aligned with what my parents aspired to. You know, my father, who got me into sports and physical activities, and my mother, who also looked for something natural in everything. Yeah, naturally, all of this contributed. In general, I started my answer this way, because I'm absolutely sure this is a trend that in one way or another must be adapted to, including by pharma giants. Any large business must always recognize that new times are coming. Trends are changing, and you either become obsolete or fall away, or you lead this new direction. And I'm absolutely certain that tomorrow all these pharmaceutical companies will disappear if they don't restructure to follow this trend, because people want better quality. They've seen it, they've understood it. Yes, not everyone is on board yet. However, the influence of those promoting this approach cannot be halted one way or another. It's no longer just a few people, it's already a trend.
But will this be accessible to everyone? Because, you know, there's what we might call elite medicine, and it's clear that very wealthy people certainly use a holistic approach to their health. They take care of their mental and physical health, and they have the resources for it. But the question is, will an ordinary person be able to afford it? And that's the main issue, that there are many, many people living on the planet, and we want an ordinary person to be able to afford such a high-quality approach to life and health.
I completely agree. People with greater resources, let's put it this way, they can be first in line.
Yes.
Because any development is initially less accessible. As we develop it, it becomes increasingly accessible, as we need to advance the industry itself. Overall, I would say that even wealthy people are interested in this, in having it widely distributed, as this would lead to a more developed system, because that's how medicine works. Even in countries where proper healthcare is lacking, they attempt to create some kind of elite medicine for certain high officials, but it doesn't function like that. They're still better off seeking treatment abroad, as they don't develop this on a systemic level. So, of course, yes, it is expensive at first, but gradually it becomes more and more accessible to the masses, and that's exactly what we're aiming for.
Let's talk about the technology itself, because living to be 100 years old while being young and beautiful sounds very attractive, but at what cost? What should I do? Where should I go?
To us, of course. We have the Holivita, which utilizes, along with all the natural and organic modern technologies as well, because I'm absolutely convinced that this reflects authentic human nature, fusing the achievements of our science with a closer connection to nature. Because we're humans, not just animals. In the Holivita, we use artificial intelligence and genetics, all the most advanced achievements in genetics. And what's interesting about this direction is that there are many doctors who are very conservative, and there are those who aren't afraid of trying something new. And they actually have a mindset that rebels against this approach, that people need to be constantly kept with diseases so they can be treated, because they want to find something new. That's why, by the way, I believe even more that we can achieve our goal, because the people who really advance medicine want to improve the entire system. They'll be happy themselves, the most advanced of them. These are exactly the kind of people we're gathering for Holivita. What's interesting about cutting-edge medicine is that it has advanced much further than what's currently in use, because for the implementation, there are required years of testing. However, artificial intelligence has now advanced to a stage where it has been proven that testing can be conducted within a very brief time frame, given that we have a digital copy of the DNA. So here's what we do. In the Metaverse, you can create your own digital twin. Ideally, if you send your biomaterials, you just need to spit into a baggie and send it via delivery to the lab. Based on this data, you can get your digital twin. And on
This is becoming quite common. Many people are already having DNA analyses done, even uncovering the heritage.
Yes, this is already developing. We're taking it to a new level by linking it to the Metaverse. And it is crucial that we connect people to this on a large scale, as development requires having a lot of different experiences. In general, this is what will help us greatly. And an important nuance is here. answering the question, getting to it finally, is that we can find a precise approach for each person, because we're very different. Yeah, we can be divided into groups, subgroups, and so on, but still, this remains rather generalized and somewhat simplistic. Each person has many different individual characteristics. Ideally, one should cultivate the ability to understand themselves. There are practices related to this. We will also include courses in our metaverse, and we will develop this theme. We understand that many people aren't ready right now, yet we want to achieve something new. Some people will never be ready. There is an option to specifically utilize our data, that is, your data, your DNA data, to build upon this foundation that is tailored specifically for you. However, a more advanced approach, which is inherently part of human nature, is to feel what you need, when and how.
For modern humans, this is quite challenging. I believe we've largely drifted away from truly feeling ourselves.
Yes, many factors contribute to distancing ourselves from feeling ourselves. In our metaverse, we aim to reconnect with our authentic selves.
I've always believed that the metaverse is an escape from oneself, but it turns out...
Yeah, it can be an escape from oneself. However, we are building the metaverse specifically to enhance our connection with nature.
You mentioned a genetic copy. What else will be required? Blood tests? I don't know. Because DNA analysis is one thing, but your current condition is completely different. With the diseases you've developed, possibly due to smoking for 20 years, or, for example, wearing improper footwear.
Yes, but all this information can also be obtained. We offer people to fill out a detailed questionnaire. Just one questionnaire can provide enough data.
Seriously? Just a questionnaire?
Yes, to base our work on that. Of course, for more accurate data, biological material is needed. Saliva is sufficient.
Tell me what. You said data, right? Well, everyone is fighting for data.
Yes, it's the new oil and the new gold.
So I will give you my precious data. What will happen to it there? What if someone uses it for something? People will know everything about me. How will I control the situation? I don't want, for example, for someone to do something with my data, or for someone to suddenly do something to me in the metaverse.
Yes, that's a good question. Actually, I could say there's nothing scary about it. It's for your benefit, and so on. But on the other hand, your data is valuable indeed. I would reframe the question. This is a value that's currently being taken from you for nothing. But in our case, we're not taking it for nothing, as you can leverage your data as a valuable asset that laboratories compete for. They pay huge money for data. We will implement a program that offers individuals the opportunity so that each participant will have the opportunity to earn from this. Additionally, we will protect your data using blockchain technology. This is a key priority, ensuring maximum data protection, so that it doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
That's interesting, because we have medical records. All our data is contained in these medical records, which are now electronic. Surely it's all being used and we don't even know by whom and how.
Yes, it must be used to develop new medicines and new treatment methods. It's necessary to continually obtain new data. Not yesterday's or the day before's, but specifically new data.
Lado, could you tell me when you plan to launch this project? When will it be possible to upload your avatar?
Well, step by step, everything's developing quite quickly for us, happening very quickly. I can't provide exact dates at the moment, but we expect a project within a month that will give people the opportunity to earn from their data. The technical side is being prepared rapidly, including the legal aspects, which is very important, of course. Everything will be prepared very quickly. There are just various iterations and various stages. So now, first, we're launching a project related to the ability to send data. Then, in the metaverse, we'll be adding one function after another. When exactly we'll be able to upload an avatar? I think during the upcoming summer.
Even so,
The ability to upload data on which the avatar will be created is already available. However, the avatar in its ideal form, in which we plan to launch it, will require a bit more time. We're also working on finalizing the timeline for our roadmap.
let's go back from Holivita to Holiverse. After all, there are many directions available, not just medical one. Share more details about what else exists there and how the holistic principle is applied in other projects.
We actually started with Holivita because it provides us with a tool to make everything else of high quality. Essentially, we already have the task of making the metaverse simulate reality as closely as possible. Our psychological details, so to speak, strongly define our reality, our condition, our physical resources, and so on, which depend on many factors such as how we eat, the lifestyle we lead, and so on and so forth. And in this sense, it can also be applied to trying something, perhaps for yourself, through your digital twin, regarding the same health. But not only that, since everything else is similarly determined by the same factors. We also aim to create an entire world within the metaverse, where your avatar can perform a variety of functions, and for this, live a complete life that relies on all of this. Consequently, an entire industry can be built on this, just as industries are built in our regular world, based on our needs that need to be met. For this, you can create all kinds of businesses. That's very much in general terms.
Yes, but I'd be
talking
interested
about
in details as well.
specifics, we plan, for example, to hold concerts in the metaverse. This means that you and your friends, who may be in different countries around the world, can attend one concert together, virtually. Technologies are now evolving towards maximum immersion, using virtual reality glasses and so on, and with special suits. These technologies are evolving and will continue to advance, even with minimal capabilities, having at least something for immersion, you know. You can already feel it much more profoundly, almost as if it's real, as if you were there, experiencing it along with other people, of whom there can be many at the concert. The artist at the concert. After the concert, there may be an after party.
Even with an after party included.
Yes, of course. We have this in our program, our ideas of what we want. Everything else is built on the same principle, starting with the simplest things that already exist in the metaverse. It's just the most understandable, right? Like trying on clothes.
I think something like that already exists.
Yeah, it already exists. That's why I'm using it as an example. Something that's already in use, something that's already known and understood, where you can take your virtual body that replicates your physical one, try on different clothes, select the perfect outfit for yourself, and receive it in physical form. And there are many such examples that could be given. But, of course, we also have education as a direction. As I've already mentioned, medicine certainly helps us. Ideally, however, each of us needs to engage in self-development in the broadest sense. And everything we can learn isn't as difficult as it seems at first, because it's completely different from what we're used to. Our courses and our training will focus on this, and around this, of course, a whole world is built, because it's like a context. There's a lot of context around it. In addition, we're also crafting our saga about the holy gods and their standoff with the static gods. We already have films, books, comics, and games in development. As for what else we'll create in the future, we'll see.
But as a teacher, I know that learning through games is the most effective method.
Yes, and that's what we want to implement as well. Because immersion is essential to ensure that learning isn't boring. Learning should engage you. You should want to do it.
I've heard there are projects that aren't virtual or metaverse related, but rather something tangible that you're producing in the real world, which also relates to the holistic approach. Is that true?
Yes, of course. Everything related to a healthy lifestyle. Because in fact, health connects to many things, including the clothes we wear. You know, we want clothing that allows our bodies to feel better. We have cosmetics that we have named Holisthetic. It's the cosmetics that you use. In the first stage, we offer skincare products. In principle, some later there will also be decorative cosmetics, yes. Because this is of tremendous importance. Many underestimate its importance. They may have heard it's significant. However, with decorative cosmetics, the regular ones, ingredients are often used that can easily penetrate the skin deeply, not only into the face, but potentially even reaching the brain. There are such components, and they strongly impact your condition. Therefore, you must take responsibility for everything you apply to yourself. And yes, the first question is that it should not harm, but rather help. And help, among other things, to get closer to nature. Because what we feel on our skin, it's very important. What smell has what we touch and what we deal with. This either helps us get closer to nature or pushes us away from it.
Well, look, everything you're talking about is actually a life philosophy.
Yes, I mentioned clothing, cosmetics. These are things we already have in development right now. These include various supplements and superfoods, as well as beverages like tea, herbal tea, and mate, one of the most important drinks in my life.
Oh, what is that? Please tell me.
It's a beverage from South America that many mistakenly refer to as tea. It's even officially labeled as tea for customs purposes, as it's easier to get through customs that way rather than explaining that there's a separate drink called mate that isn't tea at all. They simply write mate tea and leave us alone. But in reality, it's a completely different beverage. It's considered to be a drink of ancient indigenous peoples. There's a plant known as Paraguayan holly. Basically, the most traditional way to prepare it is to take a dried gourd, fill it about 3/4 full with this herb, add water, and drink it through a straw.
With hot water?
No, it's better if it's not too hot, about 60 to 65 degrees. You can even drink it cold, and that drink is called terere.
I haven't heard of that at all.
The effect will vary, of course, between the cold and hot, but not too much, not boiling.
Very warm, probably.
Yes, very warm. You don't burn yourself, especially when drinking with a straw.
Well, the straw probably needs to be special too.
Regarding the straw, the main issue is hygiene. But for instance, I use one made of copper, while you can opt for the silver ones. There are also reed straws, but with those the hygiene issue becomes even more critical. This is very important, very serious. Caring for the gourd is also rather complicated. So if you don't want to bother with that, it's better to use the simpler vessels made of glass or ceramic. But I drink from a gourd myself, although I make the effort to care for it properly. Oh, this beverage is more than just a drink. It gives you such a state of clarity and purity. Yeah, I've been drinking it, how long? For over 20 years, every morning.
Well, we're returning to what I was talking about. It's a life philosophy. It represents a specific approach to life. And you aim to share this approach, essentially, with all of humanity. It's not just a matter of healing and wellness. It's about a kind of mindfulness, how people live. Because what you're talking about involves quite subtle matters. Few people can truly grasp this.
I want to share all the benefits that can be drawn from this for oneself, for each person. And at the same time, I'm well aware that people are different. Different philosophies may resonate with different people. But behind each philosophy lies something that can be used, something that can enrich and fulfill life. My philosophies include being non-intrusive. I don't impose my beliefs on anyone, but I want to demonstrate the advantages embedded within it.
Let's envision some of the most popular and respected business magazines 5 years from now. We open it and we see a headline featuring this name, Holiverse. How would this headline sound?
Holiverse is the first true metaverse in history, revealing the essence of humanity.
Lado, thank you for this captivating and informative, mind-expanding conversation. We look forward to your company's success and growth, as well as the time when we can all benefit from your conscious, holistic approach to life.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that, and we're working towards it.